Okay, hi, my name is Dóra Björt Guðjónsdóttir. I'm in the first seat for the Pirate Party in Reykjavík. I am a student in international affairs in the master's program there. I have lived in many different countries, in Norway, Belgium, and in Germany. Now I'm here in Iceland. Came back because of the Pirate Party because I believe that it could improve our society and make things better for everyone.
Why should we urge our parents to vote for your party?
Píratar, or the Pirate Party, is a tolerant, internationally minded party. We are all over the world, and we focus on democracy. Democracy means that everyone's voices should be heard. So we focus on the access of everyone to our society, access to information, and we embrace the diversity of cultures, ideas, and we want to make it possible for everybody to be a part of our society. We emphasize democracy, transparency, and fight against corruption. And fighting corruption is important for everybody because it's a question of a fair society, a just society that we all feel comfortable in. And you know, when we're paying taxes, we want our taxes to go to our welfare system and to go to things that will make our lives better, not in the pockets of the few elite people in the society. So we emphasize fighting class division and on social justice in general. So I think it would be a good choice because of this.
What is your plan to improve child welfare?
We in the Pirate Party talk a lot about the families in Reykjavík and how we need to improve the lives of people, families with children, because what we see here in Iceland is that a lot of young people want to move abroad, maybe young people with children, because it's difficult to be here as a young person, and that's really bad. We want people to live here and enjoy their life here because we see that our nation is getting older, so it's really something that we focus on, trying to make the city good for young people and families with children. One thing we have been discussing is shortening the work week down to 35 hours and then to 32 hours without cutting the pay. And that's about it's because we want families to be able to have time together, to enjoy life together. We have had some projects in the city testing this, and that has worked really well. So we want to continue that project. We also want to emphasize preschool spaces, because that's a problem. We don't have enough preschool spaces. So what we need to do is raise the wages of preschool teachers, because we don't have enough people generally, or not just preschool teachers, but just preschool staff. And we also want to make their work environment better, because right now we actually have a leak out of the system of staff. So we need to stop that leak. We need to make the system so that we can use all the spaces that are available as today, because we have seen that a lot of kindergartens have had to close part of them because they don't have enough staff. So we really want to stop that leak and make that environment good for the staff, so that we can have more preschool spaces. But that's gonna, it takes some time. And then when we have done this, we want to increase the amount of preschool spaces so that everyone can get one at a certain age. We also have talked about that we need to focus on our educational system. We need to increase the focus on helping children that need extra help. We need to have a school system that is flexible and that is something that focuses on individual needs, because we are all different. We all have different needs, and we need help, and investing in the school system is something that will help our society as a whole. So we want more focus on that everyone in our schools that need special help with anything, if language or other needs, we need to increase that, and we want all children in the school to learn both Icelandic but also their mother tongue, and that's something we emphasize a lot because studies show that if you get help with, if you're strong in your mother tongue, you're also going to be stronger in other school areas. So this is something that we focus on, and we just generally, what else? You know, it's so many things. We just like in all child welfare systems, the needs of the children needs to come first. That's something that we focus on a lot. If the parents have separated, we always need to focus on the needs of the children, but also supporting the families as a whole, basically, yeah.
Children with another mother tongue have difficulties achieving good academic levels because of language difficulties and lack of support within the educational system. What is your plan to support them and their schools?
Like I mentioned in the previous question, we put a lot of emphasis on strengthening the teaching of Icelandic as a second language, and also teaching the mother tongue of all children, because we see that as their right. That should happen within the school system in normal school hours as a part of the normal school program. I've heard about children that move here from abroad. They have Icelandic as a second tongue, and they sometimes don't get any help with learning Icelandic, and which means that they're really missing out in all other subjects, and that's totally unacceptable. And that is something that we're going to emphasize a lot to change, because everyone needs to be able to succeed and in other school subjects. And you know, there's a really close connection between how strong you are in your mother tongue, but also Icelandic, and in succeeding in other subjects. And I was actually just shocked when I originally heard about this, that this is not already done properly, but this is something that we're putting really high on our list.
Many of us as teenagers live with their brothers and sisters within common and small rooms. Our parents cannot afford to pay the high prices charged on the rental market today. What is your plan to provide housing, and what is your vision to reduce the high rents?
This is a really big issue in Reykjavik, you know, and of course we want to focus on this, because this is one of our top priorities, to provide young people with cheaper housing, because you know, in our party, in the Pirate Party, we are basically very young people. We are all in this situation. We can't afford, many of these people in the Pirate Party can't afford moving away from their parents, or can't, it's really limiting our life quality, this situation. So doing something about this is something that we focus on a lot. We want to build even more student housing. We want to build housing for like cheap rental housing. We have talked about putting 25% of all the housing zones that are being built on now into this kind of cheap rental housing or student housing, because we see that as a big part of solving this issue. But we also wanted to make it easier to build housing that is used for flat shares, or making people that own apartments, make it possible for them to rent their apartments out as flat shares, because it's quite complicated today to do this. And we see in other countries around us, like I've been living in Norway and Belgium and Germany, and there it's very common to do this. Although you don't know the person who owns the apartment, you can get in easily and can get your own contract, and it's maybe many people, young people living in one room, and they have their own contract. And here it seems to be a complicated system to do this, and that's something we want to look into how to simplify. But one of the issues here in Reykjavik, or in Iceland, is that we don't have as high productivity in the contractor market, which is the people who are building the apartments. Basically, we have a lot of people, a lot of the contractors moved abroad after the financial crisis. So we have had issues with building quickly enough, because we just don't have enough hands to do the work. So what we need to make sure is to stabilize the contractor market, so it will continue building enough and try to support people in taking this kind of education, because we need actually more people to do this. But we also in the short term we need to look into other solutions, like importing prefabricated housing or such solutions, so we can build more quickly.
As young people, we cannot afford to rent even a small flat, and at the same time, we have to work to cover our education and living expenses. So many students in this situation have to give up their studies because of difficulties making ends meet and finding time to study. What is your vision to solve our problem?
The issues of young people and students is something that is very close to our heart. I'm a student myself. I know all of these issues, and in this period, in this term, there has actually been built quite a lot of student housing, and right now there's a lot of student housing being built, and also there's a plan of building a lot more. So just to say that it has been done a lot, but we need even more. So just as I mentioned before, we want to put 25% of new housing zones into either student housing or cheap rental housing, because the past years it has always been about buying apartments, which may not about a strong rental market. And we also want to strengthen the rights of people who are renting, because right now it's very an unsafe environment. You can be thrown out of your apartment very easily as well. So when you first get an apartment, you maybe just get to stay there for a very short time and then you're thrown out. So we would like to, with our parliamentary people, look into strengthening the rights of people who are renting, because it needs to be a safe environment as well when you at the first hand get an apartment that fits.
What is your plan to secure equality between Icelanders and foreigners, for instance, to equal pay and equal opportunities?
Let me see. Okay, so this is, goes really into our core values as well. It's about, democracy, everyone being equal. You don't have any democracy if you don't have equality, basically. So this is something that we focus on a lot. We talk a lot about access to information, because if you don't know your rights and duties and the services that are available to you, you're not going to use it. So because information is power, we want to make all the information about the services that the city has available in many languages. That's a first step, and we just so people know that know their rights, know their possibilities. We think that the education system can play a large part in equalizing people's situations. So I have been talking about we need more staff, we need more support for learning the language, because knowing Icelandic is also power. And being strong in your mother tongue is also power, because that's going to strengthen your situation. So I have already mentioned that, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. But we also want to look into how we can support and encourage foreigners in taking secondary education, because now people are dropping out of that in an alarming high rate within this group. So that's something that we want to put a lot of emphasis in. And we want to have Icelandic courses and social studies available to foreigners at affordable prices, or even for free, because that should be a very because that's something that's going to strengthen your position. We also have talked about that when you have education and experience from abroad, that should be appreciated and fairly evaluated here. So we have focused on that the evaluation system needs to be flexible, and if you have studied abroad, that should generally be valued here as well, obviously. But if your degree is not directly valued, we should have options so that you can gain the necessary added knowledge to get your degree qualified here, basically. We want that system to be simple and easy, because it's really strange that if you have studied a lot abroad, that you come here and it's not gonna be valued as such. That's a horrible thing, and that's actually really stupid if you think about that. We here in Iceland actually need more working people with good education, with good knowledge. We need to encourage that, and we need to use that for what it's worth. We shouldn't just, disqualify it. That's a horrible thing to do. And we also want to work against prejudice with education and awareness campaigns. So, yeah.
Many foreign families find it difficult to understand the rules of society, their rights and responsibilities, and many of them have difficulties with integrating into society. Many feel isolated and left out. What is your plan to improve their living conditions and integration into society?
It's really important to fight the isolation of all groups, basically, of course, of foreigners, and help them to become active members of society. And to be able to do that, we need to get people to, help people to know their rights, their possibilities, the services of the city and such. So I've already talked about information, and that we want to translate all the information about the services of the city in many different languages, which is not done properly today. And we need more people in Iceland, so we look at foreigners as giving great added value to our society. So it's really important to make people be a part of it and help them be integrated. We have also been talking about strengthening the interpretation services of the city, and having enough of that available when needed. It has been an issue that parent-teacher meetings have all been at the same time, so interpreters are not always available for these meetings, and we want to look into if it's possible to make that happen at different times, so that at least all the information is available, that people know what's happening in these meetings. It's really important. We emphasize strengthening and supporting grassroots movements that are doing a lot of good work in this field, in integrating people and making a lot of different offers and have a lot of good services. So that's also a part of our ideology, because we as politicians in the Pirate Party don't see us as knowing everything. There's so many people out there with a lot of knowledge, a lot of good ideas, and we want to strengthen their good ideas and help them. It's already done in the city quite a lot, but we want to continue that and do that even furthermore.
What is your plan to improve healthcare and welfare of our grandparents and the elderly people?
We have a long list of that, but the two main things we have been discussing is building more service apartments for elderly people, having it available to more different people, a more diverse group of people, because we want, it's interesting and good for these neighborhoods to have a lot of different people there, not just like one kind of people. And we also want to strengthen the social activities that are offered to the elderly, because after the financial crisis it was cut a lot, and there's in a lot of places where it's being offered, it's fewer people working with that. There's less possibilities of social activities and such things. So we want to strengthen that a lot, because that has been mentioned a lot. Because the way we work is that when we make our policy, we go out and we ask people, how do you want to see things? And then they tell us, and then we put it in our policy. We're not so arrogant to think that we know everything. We go out and listen, and we want to strengthen the relationship between the citizens and us, and strengthen the democracy, so that everyone's voices are heard in the policy processes. And yeah.